Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon, a leader's guide on how to select and identify the high performing employees in your organization, brought to you by Profiles International. So, welcome again. My name is Leanne. I'm the moderator for this session. I will be first going through with you some of the housekeeping matters for this afternoon's session. Now you will see the control panel on the right hand side of your screen. There's very little things you need to manage this afternoon because you'll be muted, but you can submit your questions in the chat section, which is at the end or the last section on the lower half of the control panel on your right. So don't worry about your sound, you'll be muted, or your webcams. All right. So before we start, let me take an opportunity to offer you our complimentary critical job survey or study, sorry, especially for those of you who have taken the trouble to join us this afternoon. You can take part in this study or make use of it in three simple steps. Simply select a critical job function or role in your organization. Next, find up to 10 job incumbents whom you think would do well or are in this job function position. What you're going to do is you can receive a job survey or job study, sorry. And in this study, you're going to be able to help you address some of the competencies that we're going to talk about today, which are six of these listed on the screen, anywhere from learning, reasoning, to behaviors and occupational interests. And you'll find that this study will be able to show you graphically and quantifiably compare some of these incumbents that you have selected and how and what these results will have implications on the selection, development, coaching, management, and succession planning of these individuals. Okay. This afternoon, we will be joined by Mr. Henji Santos, our country director for Profiles International. He will also be our talking on the topic for this session. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Henji Santos.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction, Leanne. And welcome to everyone in this session. And I can see that there are some familiar people. Some of it are clients of ours already. And for some of you who are first time in joining us in this webinar, I would like to welcome you all and thank you very, very much for taking the time of your crazy busy schedule to join us for this session. Now, I would just like to take the next few minutes just to introduce you about Profiles International, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. So, Profiles International helps companies worldwide create a higher performance workforce. And we support our clients through the full employee life cycle. And we help them identify the best people for their jobs and then developing them to their fullest potential. And we have solutions pretty much for used for pre-screening, job matching, onboarding, managing performance, all the way to the maximum potential or the leadership development. Excuse me. We have been established, Provost International has been established since 1991, and we have global representation to over 700 offices worldwide, over 125 countries, where Profiles Asia is representative for the Singapore country, for Singapore. We have over 50 million users who have benefited from our assessment and over 45,000 clients ranging from small, medium enterprise all the way to global Fortune 500 companies. And we have materials which are validated and are made available in 33 languages. And we do have an opportunity to work with a diverse base of marquee clients and customers ranging from financial services, retail and customers, hospitality, technology, all the way up to the business services. And right up to this point, we are proud that there's over 11,000 active customers, which includes most Fortune 500 global companies that we are partnering with and are benefiting from our solutions. Now, in over the years that in our experience in the business, we find that there are only two types of problems companies face today, and they are as follows. They are either system problems or people problems. And we deal with people problems. And simply because system problems can easily be addressed by people, but it's not the other way around. So to make it short, we at Profiles, we specialize and are experts in solving the most pressing people-related problems in the organization. Now, for this session, we are going to be talking about how to select and identify high performing employees. And this is a very common and topic and passionate, we are all passionate about, most especially to our attendees and all the business leaders because of this very volatile environment, the scarcity of talents that we have is tremendously affecting the way that we do business. And I would like to share with you three things for today, and they are as follow. I would like to discuss with you how to identify the characteristics of your top performers. And the second thing is, I would like to give you some guide to maximize employee productivity and retain your top performers. And lastly, I would like to discuss with you some client case studies of those real life situations where our clients have benefited with the use of our solutions. Now, let's get started with the first two at this point. Now, I would like this session to be really very engaging for everyone. As long, I mean, some of you might be in their offices, but my first question for today is: have you ever hired someone who looks good on paper but end up as a disappointment? Now, I would like all the audiences, so please kindly help me out here and just please type into the question panel. It's either a yes or no on this, so I can have a sense of whether you have experienced this kind of situation in an organization. Now, okay, great. There's some of you have typed, and most of you have mentioned this yes. So most definitely, every one of us have experienced this kind of situation. Now, how about if I change the question and put it something like this? Have you ever made a conscious decision to hire a non-performer? Well, of course, the answer is no. So how then do so many poor performers get hired in our organization? Well, to answer that question, let's begin with an examination of the traditional hiring process as practiced by most employers today. And this is a process that has from one to three components, which I would like to share with you first. Okay, the first component is the skill fit or checking the past information. Okay, and these are historical information which is usually okay derived from resumes of any candidates. Okay, and where we check the experience, the past employment, the education, the personal reference, and maybe some of you do a background check for verification. Now, these are, however, we need to take note that people have a tendency to embellish their qualification. Now, especially in this kind of environment, it's very competitive. People will do anything, okay, and everything, and one of which is, doctor their qualification just to get ahead or take that, promotion that they wanted to, or the position or the job that they wanted to. Now, I would just like to share some shocking HR statistics that we have compiled and has been published through our employee assessment blog, which has garnered a lot of attention from both business leaders and HR practitioners, like many of you who are attending today. And what they found was that 34% of all application forms contains lies. And out of those 1,000, over more than 1,000 managers, okay, surveyed, caught the job applicant fabricating resumes. And furthermore, there's more than 53% of all job application containing inaccurate information. Now, there's one of the management guru, Peter Drucker, once said that chances are good that up to 66% of your company's hiring decision will prove to be a mistake in the first 12 months. In addition to, he have also listed the top three reasons of why people fail. On top of it, whereby the very top reason is dishonesty, in addition to incompetence and incompatibility in the job. Now, to help prevent this from happening, most companies add second component, which is the company fit, which deals with reviewing the present information. Okay, and the information gathered here are such as attitudes of the candidate towards the person who is seeing, the values, appearance, and demeanor, and etc. And most of the time, the information gathered is based on the platform of an interview, which revolves around the first impression a candidate presents, and of which is our judgment are generally based on gut feeling, and also appearances of the candidate, the personality, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, we try to get all this information in a very short period of time. Now, there are some of the biases operating during this time, and what we call, as an example, is the similar to me effect, whereby just because we came in the same university, the interviewer or people would have a tendency to be more lenient towards a candidate and more receptive towards the candidate. Now, we also judge the way they speak to us, and we often get this halo effect, which is the first impression we get from the candidate, which tends to cloud our judgment, which leads us to an instinctive hiring decision that we can later regret. There's, according to Society of Human Resource Management, that it's something scary that 63% of all hiring decisions are made during the first 4.3 minutes of an interview, which is really scary. And most of the time, the implication is that based on this gut feel or instinctive hiring decision, we get a bad hires. And those bad hires, the average cost of those bad hiring decisions can equal to a 30% of the first year's earning of the applicants now, or the person we have hired. And when they leave the position, we end up with a turnover, the which there's numerous studies, you could use many formulas if you will, that it is really costly for many organizations. And they have different tiers, which is from a salaried employee, mid-level employee to senior, all the way to senior executive. There's a price, and it's a hefty price into it associated with this cost of replacement due to turnover. From a salaried employee point of view, it ranges from 11,000, and it grows exponentially as you go up to the corporate ladder to senior executive. That is almost $250,000. It has a cost of replacement. Now, I would like every one of you, okay, to think of the cost of your last hire. Now, aside from salary and benefits, there's the cost of advertising that we put through, the investment in training, the price of getting a new worker up to speed. And in addition to this, the loss of IP knowledge, the loss of organizational knowledge, and what's worse is if, like, most recently, I do have a friend which have voluntary turnover. One of the costs associated with this is the price of getting clients or bringing the clients together with him, okay, and eventually abandoning his previous company, which drastically cost the organization of over $2 million, okay, of potential revenue all the way to 2000, end of 2012. Now, hence we need to, um, hence the job match, which is the third component, okay, in which what we call in profiles the cornerstones of performance, which is the most important of it all, but it is the least understood element of the hiring process and can only be achieved by assessing both the job and the individual. Now, remember, the only way we can make our best hiring decision is to consistently use all these three components that you are seeing in front of you. And they are skill fit, company fit, and the job match. Now, let me substantiate this with some statistics, if you will. Now, did you know that research continually shows that conventional unstructured interviews conducted by the average interviewer, like those you and me included, provide only 14% of the information you need, or the success rate is only 14% to make a good hiring or promotional decision. And that's what you do every time you hire someone. Then we end up saying, I predict that Susan will be one of my best performers. Now, would you feel confident making such prediction on the basis of interview alone, where the statistics suggest that you get in 1 in 6 hit rate only? Of course, most of you would say, of course not. Now, like I said, I would like this to be interactive session. Whether you are at your office, at your desk, or traveling, please, I would like to show you how to triple the success rate you get with the interview alone. Is that okay? Now, I would like you to take out a piece of coin. Come on, please take out a piece of coin. Okay, help me out here. And take that coin and place it on the nail of your thumb. Okay? So now you have it. The next time you hire, you just simply flip the coin in the air and say, heads, he gets the job, tails, he doesn't. And you'll get it 50% of the time right, which is 3 times more effective than using the old fashioned unstructured interview alone. Well, I guess some of you is laughing at this point, but seriously, you need more information to make effective predictions of superior performance when you place people into their jobs. Now, the chart here shows the efficiency of a variety of methods you can use in the selection process, or the percentage of hiring success of the different techniques and methods that you can use. As the first one, the interview only yields about 14% chances of having the best people in place in the right job. If you include some reference check and personality tests, which a lot of you have perhaps experienced before, it increases all the way up to 38%. And if you include some abilities and occupational interest, it goes all the way up to 66. And if you include the job match, job fit approach, which profiles literally use in our solution, it goes as high as 75%. The reason this is so important is because you must see the total person. And if you know the total person, it increases your hiring success better than 75% of the time. You know, I would like to compare people like this. I compare people like an iceberg. And usually during those hiring and conventional hiring practices that we do, which is an interview, this is what we see. We just see the tip of the iceberg or the surface level, but however, there is more beneath the surface than the above. And this is bulk or 90% of the time, the real side of people or person that we don't see. Now, we are not, when you have to make a decision based on inadequate information, you are bound to make hiring decision you'll regret later. If you use traditional hiring methods, you have to depend too much on your instinct on your instinct. Now, we're not saying that this 10% of information that you derive based on education, experience, and skills are not good information, but simply they are not enough. They are limited as it is. The real essence of a person, okay, which includes that you need to probe or find out, which includes their thinking styles, behaviors, occupational interests, and the job fit, job match approach and predictive superior performance in a particular job is those information that we cannot be able to have within our reach. Okay, so that's a very limiting factor for most of the managers and the clients that we have had. Now, I would just like to segue a little bit because I would just like to mention this because there's this organizational phenomenon, okay, going on in hiring people where those A players hire B players and those B players hire C players. And it goes from C players and also hires the D players until it becomes a Z company, a company full of Z players. And when this happens, I call this as a bozo explosion. You know, I love this graphic, but nevertheless, this is a very good analogy that I would put in. Okay, but how do we solve this problem? You know, the experts in productivity and organizational psychology, Frank Smith and John Hunter, okay, undertook an 85 years of research, okay, which is reported in Harvard Business Review, where they undertake whether we could be able to plan and predict the performance in most organizations. And what they have found out based on that 85 years of research that well, by the way, this is a very sleep inducing report. It's a very thick, but I am paraphrasing here what I'm going to be mentioning. They found out that not all people in all jobs are created equal. Not all people are equally going to be productive in every job, in every level, in every country, in every organization, in every industry, not all people will be going to be productive. So they will, in broadly speaking, they will fall under the, you know, the distribution curve, as we call, standard distribution called the barrel curve, whereby there will be some superior performers, average, and the marginal. Now, they have seen that in every job, in every organization, there will always be a superior performance, which is 16%, and majority of which will fall under the average performers, 68%. And same as the superior performers, there will be a 16% marginal performers, or bluntly speaking, the low performing employees. Now, what the implication is that if you are a 10-person company, there will sure be 3-person, close to 3-person that will just not gonna be productive. Now, if you put it into this perspective, the output as a percentage of mean output, we just like to zoom into just the skilled level, whereby the average difference between a poor and an average performers is 32%. And that same goes from the average to superior is 32%, and the poor to superior also 32%. And that's substantial. But if you go in the basis that if it is a management, professional, or sales position, it goes up exponentially. Just take a look at the last point, which is the difference between the poor and superior performers for the management, professional, and sales position is 184%. And that is huge. I couldn't tell you enough how much the implication of this difference, but in reality, unless all your people are superior performers, you are losing money unnecessarily. Now, every time you move performance of an employee from average to superior, you would have a dramatic and measurable impact. Now, how do we start? I guess it's always a question: where do we start to predict performance? What is the best top performers? Best performance. Now you have to start with your top performers. You need to know these three key things. First of which is you need to know their results. You need to know why are they successful, what are those KPIs, if you will, or the results that they bring in that is aligned to the business objective. That is why they are the top performers. The second is you need to know their potentials, the potential, why they are successful, are they made of. And the last thing would be the characteristics of these top performers. Now, the first thing in identifying the top performers, there's a couple of processes that we go through, such as a talent audit or intelligence, which whereby you conduct an analysis of your critical people that will be meeting your critical business results based on the importance of the organization and the industry that you are in. And they can also do a job analysis. But the key thing is you need to build a performance model where you could be able to quantifiably and show why they are the top performers in your organization. Now, the next thing you have to do is carefully identify the objective measures. Of course, this is different from one industry to the other, and I would just like to give you some example. If they are in a sales position, you could use objective measures such as sales per month, per quarter, or per annum. And you could also use an average profit margin per sale that they have closed. And if you are in a call center situation, an example, you could use a calls handled per hour. And if you are in the manufacturing sector, units manufactured per hour. And of course, the supervisor and manager's rating, which differs from every company to the other. Now, these are the careful. You need to carefully identify the objective measures. Why have you identified them as your top performers? Now, the next thing into the process, you need to identify their potentials. Now, this is a very important thing. Okay. Now, that every one of you needs to understand. Every success is different from one company to the other. Okay, a person could be a top performer in one organization, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he will be a superman too in one organization. Just to put it in an analogy, if I have as an example a top performer in DBS Bank in Singapore. And there's also a DBS Bank in China. If I put this top or star performer from DBS Singapore and I put it in DBS in China, do you think that he will also be a top performer there? Most of our clients in our organization says no, they are completely different. They are not the same. Yeah, that's exactly what our point is, because what makes you successful in one company doesn't make you successful in other companies. Okay, so with this, we need to ask these three key questions in identifying the potentials of every candidate that we are selecting for a particular position, and most especially critical position in our organization. And they could be first, can they do the job? How will they do the job? And are they motivated to do the job? Now, these are the three key questions, okay, that you must ask, which if you have a tool like that, okay, which could increase your likely success of getting the right people in the job 75% of the time, you must get those, okay, and use them. And that's where one tool that can answer all this is the Profile XT, which I would like to share with you, okay? And this is one of our flagship product here in Profiles International. And the PXT or Profile XT collects a sort of information to measure the total person information you need to have a to have before you put anyone into a job. It does this in a very efficient manner whereby the prospective person simply completes an online questionnaire that consists a series of questions specifically designed to assess and analyze the attributes of your top performers in this specific job. Now, I would like to take let's have a brief look at the sort of things that PXT will measure in your candidates, and shortly we'll have a look at how ESID reports made in the selection process and throughout the employee life cycle. Now, the first thing is the can the person deal with the mental demands of their job? Okay. Now, the learning index is the first thing, or the thinking styles. Is the learning index one of the 20 aspects of a person that you can assess to get a better picture of that total person? We are not measuring here what you'll have heard called IQ or intelligence quotient. We're measuring something much more useful in the context of predicting a person's likely job performance. Now, let's say that 1 gallon is a pretty high level of intelligence. And on this scale, we could have two people who have a gallon of intelligence, but one of them scores at a high end of the scale and one at the other end. They may well have achieved the same academic results in examination, but they have a very different ways of dealing with information. Now, those at the high end could be compared to gallons. By the way, 10 being higher, okay, and 1 being lower, okay, compared to a gallon buckets, and those at the opposite end to the gallon, uh, which has gallon bottles, which has a bottleneck in there. The difference in style becoming very apparent when you go to fill them up with information. Now, consider a training situation. Because they have a large opening, the buckets on the right are capable of taking a large volume of information at once. Now, they prefer a quick pace environment where the information is presented in a fast manner as possible. And they become impatient and frustrated with slower presentation and may become bored in things that don't move quickly enough informationally. Now, their peers on the other end of the scale can also take a gallon of information, but because they have a more gentle and have a narrower opening, they prefer a learning environment where information is presented at a more gentle and deliberate pace. Now, these people frequently favors hands-on learning, so to speak. Now, neither is it good or bad. The key is to ensure that you match people to jobs where their learning ability suits the pace and the volume of information flow. You have to match a bucket into a slow information environment and they become frustrated and bored and unproductive. And match a bottle into an environment where the information flow is too fast or too voluminous, and they'll struggle to keep the pace. And either will give up completely or become so stressed that they are ineffective anyway. Now, of all the attributes you can measure to predict a person's success in any position, research has shown that this is one and is the single most effective. So ensuring you place a person in a position that suits their learning ability is absolutely the key. Now, the second thing, which is the behavioral traits, answer the questions where are the candidates comfortable with the demands of the environment they are in? So having determined that someone has learning index appropriate to the position, that they will be able to deal easily with informational demands of the position, wouldn't be nice to know if they'll fit the environment? So, and also be able to comfortable with the demands that the position makes on them as a person. Again, this is somewhat we can assess very accurately. There are 9 areas it is useful to know about, and these are presented by these 9 scales, such as energy level, assertiveness, sociability, manageability, attitude, decisiveness, all the way to objective judgment. So people scoring at so I would like to take you through one of those scales. I won't go through all this because it's beyond our topics for today. But I would just like to give you a sense of one of the scales, such as the energy level. Now, I find this to be a very great scale because it describes an attribute that is important to a greater or lesser extent in absolutely any job. And it's one that you cannot assess simply by meeting or talking with or interviewing a person. This is one of those attributes which, like the larger part of the iceberg we saw earlier, floats beneath the surface of the person. Now, it measures tendency towards restlessness and drive. So people scoring at a high end have a lot of restlessness and drive, and they are impatient, energetic, always on, and approach every situation with a sense of urgency. And they take a lot of things at once and may be guilty sometimes of poor finishing. Sometimes, I'm nine in energy level, so I'm guilty as charged here, and poor time management or inattentive to detail. Now, this is because they tend to be so busy all the time, they tend to forget when the end of the day comes, it's time to go back home. Now, they have work life balance issues and challenges. They're simply moving too fast for this consideration. Now, the people at the opposite end of the scale are those who are patient and methodical. They take things step by step to ensure they make fewer mistakes, and they focus on a single task at a time. Now, the last thing is the occupational interest. Okay, do the people love their job and are motivated to do it? Now, we've only looked at this one attribute that I mentioned earlier. Now, there are six other equally important attributes that we measure using Profile XT, and the attributes that are pretty much impossible to assess on the surface. So now you know what sort of information handling ability your person enjoys. You also know what sort of environment, people challenges they will face with ease, and which might give them problems. Well, I think it is not enough. Well, as we'll see in a moment, this information alone will move you substantially closer to that 100% figure you'd ideally like to have if you are to effectively predict success every time you place someone in one position. Now, imagine you found that I had an appropriate mental style and personality suited to the many challenges, I might face in the position. You'll feel reasonably comfortable that I could be successful in that position, right? Well, suppose I told you that while all this is true, the truth is that I hate the sort of work I've been discussing. It simply holds no interest for me. Would that affect your decision? Of course it would. The fact that I'm capable of doing the work doesn't assure my success. I'd be capable of the cleaning your office as an example or vacuuming your floors, but I wouldn't find the work inspiring or interesting. So I wouldn't be motivated to do the work as well. So that is why we measure their occupational interests from enterprising, financial, admin, people service, technical, mechanical, or creative. And it does this for every job. The top three equally important interests a person must have in order to be successful in the job. Now, that is just a broad overview of this tree. Now, the Harvard Business Review research proved that people perform at a superior level when they were matched to their jobs. Now, talking about superior producer, they fit their job and they couldn't sustain their level of performance if they didn't. So these are people which can deal with mental demands of their position, are comfortable with the demands of the environment they work in, and also love their job and are motivated to do it. Now, let's look at the sample of our job match pattern. Now, which is the third things that you need to look for, which is the characteristic. Now, here are profiles. We measure. We have the so-called performance model, which is the job match pattern that we tend to find out for what is the success pattern in every particular job in an organization. Now, this is an example of which you can see on the right, the job match pattern. Shaded areas indicate the job match pattern according to the thinking style, behavioral traits, and interests of your top performers. Okay, and these are the job match patterns that shows requirement for the job that we have assessed. Let's say maybe five top performers. Now, what you see here is an example of a good match. Now, the dark areas indicate the job match pattern, and the yellow boxes show the candidate's score, against the performance model or benchmark, as you will. Now, what one unique features, it shows you, the hiring manager, the overall job match pattern in a single number, which is, as you can see here, this is an 83% job match for that particular position. And you could really identify that in terms of thinking, behavioral, and interest scale, that there's relatively few, okay, scales such as energy, attitude, and objective judgment. This that falls, two scale within the pattern, success, predictive success pattern. So, which is an aggregated, if you aggregate those, it becomes the overall job match percentage, which is very helpful for managers. Now, what is a questionable match? As you can see here, okay, you will notice the yellow boxes, that there's a lot of yellow boxes here. This is a questionable match. There are so many differences between these persons and your top performers that you'd certainly want to explore the likely implication of these differences before you consider placing him or her in a position. Look at just an example of the attitude scale under the behavioral traits. They are two scale beyond or farther away from the performance model based on their top performers. And this will be shown here. As you can see, under the behavioral traits, there's only 54% match against which the performance model. Now, one unique features of Profile XT is the distortion scale. You could also detect how candid the respondent answered to the assessment, further giving you much more information of how this person, okay, or whether this person have answered the assessment with a polished reality that he would like to see for his himself. Now, having done this, okay, this is a very brief overview of what we do here. There's a lot more things to share, but I'd like to keep it because I'd like to keep the time, and which I promise you is, having done this, we can show you graphically and quantifiably to what degree your current employees or candidates for employment match that standards, against which are solutions which we could be able to be used throughout the employee life cycle, from selection, onboarding, coaching, development, management, succession planning, and strategic workforce planning. And they are all, the reports are really very informational, and it's written in plain old simple English language, which is very much appealing to whoever is going to be reading it. Okay, and so just to summarize, you start with your top performers, identify their results, their potentials, and the characteristics of what they're made of. Okay, and this is what essentially the Profile XT can do. Now, and this is because the hardest people to retain in your organization are the top performers. You need to love them more, and you need to celebrate their existence, and you would like to keep them more, because ultimately you would like to clone them as you will, okay, in order to drive the performance level of your organization. Because in this tough economic times, even the tightest labor market, a good people or even salesperson has more opportunities to move jobs for better prospect remuneration, satisfaction than just about anyone else. Now, this thing that you see here is from a Harvard Business Review article, which is in these days of talent wars, the best way to keep your stars is to keep them better than, to know them better than they know themselves, and use those information to customize their careers to their dreams. Okay, so I'm just doing a little bit of time check here. So I promise that I will keep it into a very tight timing. But let me just go through with a third case where I would like to highlight to you some of our client case stories which have utilized our solutions for their organization. And yeah, have you ever Are you ever tired of not seeing and not knowing the return on investment in your HR activities? I guess a lot of this has been an issue in most organizations. Now, let me just quickly go through with you with some of the real life client case studies. And I'm going to share with you very quickly about chemical industry, insurance industry, and the medical device manufacturing industry that we have had the pleasure to work with to improve their bottom line, retain their top performers, and reduce their employee turnover. Now, start off with a company called Eastman. The company are very experienced using the assessment and integrating them for its needs. Sees the improvement curve rising with their use, especially the convergence of assessment. And this company, they have been around nearly 100 years in the manufacturing chemical products to over 40 countries worldwide. And they pride themselves as a company with a high performance culture where a senior manager, a senior executive quoting that since using the Profile XT, it is a shift from a low performer thinking to maybe they are not in the right job and we should find them a better fit. Now, it is a mentality shift, and by applying the data derived from the Profile XT, I can figure out that if poor job fit is the case, I can help them go into the different job and do better. Isn't that great? So, another company which is a century-old manufacturer of medical devices engaged profiles to improve retention of their top sales people in addition to improving their productivity. Came to us before implementing the Profile XT. The average sales per sales rep was 169,000, and the result after 1 year of implementation, annual sales increased to an average of 233,000 per sales employees, and the Profile XT assessment increased Bard's medical critical care sales by 28% per year. Now, another thing is another industry I'd like to share with you is a global insurance company where their main challenges is identifying top performers, improving selection process, and sustaining a turnover rate below industry average. Now, this global insurance company has been around since 1966, and they have engaged Profiles International to productive relationship to improve associates' performance. Now, as a result, their voluntary turnover rate was reduced to 6%, which is well below than the 10% industry average. And furthermore, professional level employees representing, which is a substantial portion of the company's talent, show a turnover rate of a very impressive 1.6%. Now, there is this one. I would just like to include one more because I really love this of one of this 2012 case studies that we have produced is from Rosewood Hotels because we have also been working with like I mentioned, diverse background of marquee clients coming from corporate HR manager. We now make more informed hiring decision and selecting people who will stay with us longer. But it doesn't end there. Profiles products have become an important part of our culture, and we saw the terminology and concept in our performance review. Uh, and if we took the product away from our managers, we would be dealing with some disappointed internal guests. So, well, that concludes our session for today. I promise to keep it really quick and short and really very informational. You could be able to have a broader sense of what we're doing and how to improve the performance of our clients here. Now, um, by the way, my name is Henji Santos again, and I'm an assessment solution expert and a country director for Profiles Asia. Feel free to connect with me via LinkedIn or Twitter, or drop me an email if you have any question. Now, one parting ways is if there's anyone of you, and I highly encourage so, that has anything that we have said that has piqued your interest, and are interested, okay, with in driving the performance in your organization, and most especially retaining the top performing employees within your organization, please, I highly encourage you to take advantage of our offer, which is the critical job study that my colleague Leanne is going to be discussing with you. And I'm certainly looking forward in meeting up with you and catch up with you soon and working with your company for driving a better result for your organization. So, having said that, thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santos. And that was our country director for Profiles International, Singapore. Just like what he mentioned earlier, take advantage of our critical jobs study. If you have a group of individuals that you're highly interested to see how they perform against some of the competencies that you may already have in your organization, well, the study should do the trick. And for most of us who may not be familiar with this, competencies or the use of competencies in hiring star performers for organizations, we may like to participate or respond to this poll question that we are going to launch in a few seconds. If you're interested to hear more about this or be one of the few people who take up this study, please respond to this poll. Wow, we have some people coming in. Okay, and let's take a look before we, as the poll is going on, we'd like to remind you that our next session, the strategic workforce planning, is happening on 1st of November. Be sure to sign up for these as soon as possible. And we have some questions that are coming in, but we'll probably like to take this offline and respond to you directly through your emails that you have registered with us at the start of the session. So without much further questions from all, let us end this session this afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. We will be in touch with you and see you very soon in our next session on 1st of November. Thank you.